Against the Ropes podcast.
Contra las cuerdas.
Against the Ropes podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. AtR podcast. Gio Garcia here. I'm alongside Christian Mosqueda. We're back for another episode. Things are starting to heat up in July. Of course, we got to talk about June. We had the fight between Jake Paul and Chavez Jr. and a lot that happened after that as well. So we'll get into it, Chris.
Yeah, guys, welcome to the podcast. Again, if you guys are watching it right now, if you guys are watching a replay, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this. Again, like Gio said, big weekend, and July is just gonna start turning things up. So yeah, man, let's get started, Gio.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Of course, we got to talk Jake Paul against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. You see the poll there that we were talking about on air last week. We'll get into that, but I do want to mention the undercard real quick. We had a couple friends of the show on that, and then the possible birth of a star in Floyd Schofield, Chris, who received a little bit of criticism on your end because of that Tank Davis fiasco. Maybe he erased that with the first round knockout of Tevin Farmer, which I think was impressive. But let's get into real quickly some shout out to our good friend Joel Iriarte. Gains another victory, this time for the first time he doesn't get a stoppage, but he did get a unanimous decision in an 8-rounder, his second of his young career. The 22-year-old out of Bakersfield, California, Joel Iriarte, who came out with Chinito Pacas. So that was pretty cool to see. And then also Alexander Getch, they were saying that's how they were pronouncing his name. So that's how I'm going to say it. Alley Cat from Long Beach, California. Also won in a unanimous decision. He's 8-0 now. 5 KO. So just wanted to start off with those quick shout outs before we get into the other two fights that we mentioned.
Yeah, you said it, Gio. Some of those fights obviously were do what you need to do on fight night, get the win, move on. Obviously, these guys are padding their records, but well done for all of those guys. The Gucci from Long Beach, Iriarte, obviously, we know that he's a talent. And yeah, man, again, they did what they needed to do and then move on.
That's right. And then let's get into that fight that I mentioned, Floyd Schofield. Shout out to Big Bro Chicken. And Schofield stopped Tevin Farmer in the first round, something that we really haven't seen before. Let me see right here. Floyd Schofield, he improves to 19-0, 13 KOs. That 13th, the most impressive. He's 22 years old. They're moving him along pretty well. And he defeated, of course, veteran Tevin Farmer, who drops to 33-9. 34 years old. But look, this is what I want to highlight here and why I think this was so impressive, because you see Tevin Farmer, he had fought William Cepeda back to back in November of 2024 and May of this year. Lost one time by split, one time by majority. So close fights. Wasn't stopped by Raymond Murataya, who can crack too, who can box. He had a challenge there with Tevin Farmer. And you see some of the other good names that Tevin Farmer fought with. And, to be able to get stopped in the first round, to me, I think that's impressive. Chris, what do you think?
Well, Joe, I've always said anybody that finishes their opponent in under 5 rounds, it shows that those guys were never in their level. So again, for a Floyd Schofield to do this to a veteran, to a guy like Tevin Farmer, I don't think anybody's ever made him look this bad. It's impressive. I completely agree. I don't think any of us predicted that Schofield would win by first round, TKO. So again, that's mighty impressive. You mentioned that we've got some criticisms for Floyd Schofield, especially with the whole Shakur debacle. With I even said it. I think he used it as clout. Never wanted to go through with that fight, but I mean, this fight kind of shows that there is some hidden confidence there. That it wasn't all for clout. It wasn't all for show. So again, obviously, Shakur and Tevin, two different fighters. That fight between Schofield and Shakur, that's gonna be TBD for another day. But mildly impressive, Gio. This fight reminds me of Virgil Ortiz when he fought Herrera. Again, Herrera was a guy that gave everybody fits. He never looked good against them. Even the Danny Garcia struggled against them. A lot of people thought Herrera won that fight. So when Virgil Ortiz did that to Herrera, this kind of reminded me of that. So again, very impressive for Schofield. I want to see what happens next. Again, that confidence, I think it's for real.
Big process. Those last two fights took a lot from Tevin, but still impressive KO by Schofield. Yeah, that was an early night for Schofield. And yeah, he said he felt a little guilty by doing what he did to Tevin Farmer because he's friends with him. But anyway, he got the job done. Very interesting to see what's next. We also had Zurdo Ramirez, who won by unanimous decision. Of course, the cruiserweight champion now. First cruiserweight champion from Mexico, Gilberto Ramirez, which kind of ties into the main event, right? Because Jake Paul is now ranked after his victory against Julio Cesar Chavez. We'll pull this article up. He's now ranked eligible for WBA cruiserweight title shot. All right. And of course, who has that title? Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. So, they had that whole face off there at the end of the fight. And I don't know, we spoke about it a little bit before the fight. Is this a possibility? Is this a joke? It now seems like the WBA is getting behind it. Not surprised, these guys, and I don't mean just the WBA, all the other ones too. A lot of times they hop on the clout. So I'm not surprised. But should we be taking this seriously? Does he deserve a title shot? I'll go ahead and post a poll too on our channel. If our viewers think Jake Paul has done enough to be ranked, first of all, and number two, earn a title shot. Chris, I don't know how you feel about this.
Well, let me first say, Gio, if you beat somebody like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., that he's a real fighter. Obviously we know the lineage, we know the name, we know some of the opponents he's fought. Again, he's a true fighter, and for a Jake Paul to get a W over him, that definitely does deserve a ranking. I wouldn't say he deserves a title shot just yet. Obviously, the powers that be, the entities, all they care about is can you sell tickets, and put a performance after the fact that makes us feel like what, at least it was a good effort, it was competitive. Again, at this point, I don't think he deserves a full title shot, but he does deserve to get ranked, in my opinion. Joe, what do you think?
I don't know, man. Like, let's look through the resume of Jake Paul. He's 28 years old. He's 12-1 now as a professional boxer, 7 KOs. Of course, he didn't face many professional boxers to begin with. Gibb, I think that was a YouTuber. Nate Robinson was a basketball player. Ben Askren was an MMA fighter who was close to retirement. Tyron Woodley, I believe, was also an MMA fighter who was a bit older. You see there 4 debuts in his first 4 fights. So he's fighting guys who are not even boxers. He fought Anderson Silva, who did have a professional career once upon a time. If you look at it here, a long time ago, he had one professional fight in boxing in 1998, then went to fight in the MMA, UFC, and then came back for some money fights with Julio Cesar Chavez, Tito Ortiz, Jake Paul. So not sure you can consider him a professional boxer, even though he did have a few fights as a pro. And then you look at him fighting Tyson Fury after that. His first actual professional boxer as an opponent, he lost. Nate Diaz, who also was making his professional boxing debut, and other guys who, on paper, it looks good. Look, 10-1 August Berlin, 17-2, looks good. Mike Tyson, that was more of an exhibition, and Julio Cesar Chavez now, I guess, is the first real professional boxing win for Jake Paul. However, Chavez, 39 years old, very inactive in the last 5 years or so. I strongly believe that he should not be ranked, but hey, it's great business. So, like I said, I'm not surprised, and I'm not opposed to it really. One of the polls that we put up on our channel was, should he fight? Should he get the chance to fight Zurdo Ramirez? So let's go first to this poll right here that we posted last week and we discussed a little bit during our last live. Who will win? And look, 64% of the people were going with Chavez. I'm assuming it's just a lot of boxing fans who wanted to see Jake Paul lose. Of course, Jake Paul was the heavy favorite. But look, out of 540 votes, only 36% of the people were saying he was going to win. Now, a poll that I posted after the fight was, would you like to see Jake Paul fight Zurdo Ramirez? Chris, I'll let you answer this for me. Yes or no? Which one should I click on?
Let's click on the one where he fights Zurdo. Let's see
right.
that percentage.
Let's put yes. 58% of the people are saying yes at the moment. 370 votes. 58% are saying yes. 42% no. Percent are saying no, Chris. What do you think that tells us?
I mean, again, just like the Chavez, I think a lot of it says they want to see Jake Paul get beat, and that's why they want to see this fight. They want to see Jake against an actual active boxer, Gio. That's what that tells me.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Kind of for that reason. I do want to see if he actually has a skill to compete in there against, an actual champion, an actual established boxer. And I think if he loses, he has nothing to lose. He's going to make so much money. And we can get into the purses as well in a little bit. But what were your thoughts on Jake Paul versus Chavez Jr.? Jake Paul won a unanimous decision.
If I get into that, let me just reply to Big Bro because I know he didn't like my take. Let me just say, Gio, when I say ranked, I think you meant top ranked. Does he deserve to get top 10 ranked? No, I don't think Jake deserves to get a top 10, but I do feel like he deserves like a top 50 ranking. And let me just clarify that, Gio. Second, yeah, against Zurdo, of course you brought up the business angle, and that makes perfect sense for Zurdo. He's gonna make maybe 5 to 7 times more money than he's ever made fighting anybody else, and that might be his biggest purse ever, in my opinion. There's not a lot of crazy names at that cruiserweight level. Let's just be real. That's one of the reasons Chavez Jr. came back, is because he knew he was gonna get a payday, the biggest one in his entire career, maybe even higher. I'm gonna say than Sergio Martinez fight. So yeah, that makes perfect sense for Zurdo. I want to. I'm divided, you. I'm torn. I'm 50-50. I want to see it in the sense to see, just like you, where Jake Paul rates against, an actual established, like you said, champion, an active one that's hungry, one that's not here to just, take part. So that's one of the reasons I want to see it. Another part of me doesn't. Again, I feel like Jake is more top 50, maybe like late 40 to 45. So I would like to see him get a little bit more experience with, those in front of him, and then you get someone against Zurdo. But I mean, like you said, the entities will love this up. They want to put the two most known names in a sense in that division, so I can see them moving him up.
Yeah. Another take by Big Bro. He says Schofield should get the winner of Cepeda and Shakur. Wouldn't be mad at that. Wouldn't be mad at that. But hey, let's get into the purse right here. Chris defending his take there. Didn't like the clap back.
Hey,
Clap back Tuesday.
and Big Bro sending them jazz, man. I had to counter a little bit. This is a boxing podcast.
All right, hey, let's get into the purses here because this will be surprising to a lot of people. I feel like, however, this is not the actual final number that these guys are going to be receiving. So it says for their fight on June 28th, Jake Paul's disclosed purse was $300K, while Chavez was $750K. So Chavez was making more than double. Some people right there, I'm sure, were scratching their heads and saying, all right. But obviously, after pay-per-view and all that, they're saying that the potential earnings will be over 10 million. And I think Paul has a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to all that revenue. Even though Chavez had the guarantee that was higher. Obviously Paul at the A side, they're saying he can make a lot of money. Let's see what some of these other sources are saying. As far as the potential earnings, because the 750K is what has been reported. I want to see the potential. I've read different numbers. I read 10 million, 20 million. I guess we'll never really know that final number, but yeah, it's supposed to be up there.
Yeah, again, I can see obviously after the pay-per-view numbers come in and they sort that out. Obviously, I'm pretty sure Jake Paul, his management team himself, whoever is managing him, I'm sure he's got plenty of lawyers. He's already got money. I don't think he obviously needs to box. I think he does it for the love of the sport. But I'm pretty sure he's edged out a contract where he knows that he is the one that's selling the most pay-per-views, and like you say, he's gonna get. I want to say 75% of that pie. So I think deservedly so. He does bring in lots of eyeballs to the sport, and I mean, in my opinion, Chavez Jr. should be lucky, should be grateful that he's getting paid this much at 39 years of age with the lackluster career he's had in the last 7 years plus.
Yeah, and look, they're saying he got about 30 million in that Mike Tyson fight. So this purse probably won't get close to that, but yeah, man, this guy's making a lot of money from boxing, and that's why a lot of boxers, especially, don't like him. But I think this is a good segue into that Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 3 fight because he's part of it. He's promoting that, and those two women are gonna make the most money ever. So, for the people who think that Jake Paul isn't good for boxing, all right, maybe you didn't like the fight against Chavez Jr., maybe you didn't like the fight against Mike Tyson, but I don't think anyone can hate on the fact that we're getting a trilogy from Taylor and Serrano, and they're going to make the most money ever out of any women's boxers ever. And it's supposed to be another great show, and that's going to be on Netflix coming up soon, July 11th, I believe. Let me see if I have the right date on here. I don't want to give you guys the correct. July 11th, Netflix, live from New York.
Yeah, and Joe, let me just say, I don't think anybody's upset that there's a trilogy. I think most people, are looking forward to these two great champions getting it on one more time. I think the thing that people are sick is the judging, is the decisions at the end of these fights, because they're great fights. They're always back and forth. They're very competitive. Some of the best exchanges we've seen in women's boxing, and I'll say all of its history. So again, I think people are looking forward to this fight. The one thing that is, in Spanish, call it as the mal sabor de boca, is just the judging and not the right winner getting their hand raised at the end of these fights. So that's the only sour note I would say of these. So hopefully we get a deserved winner. Again, I don't know how you had the fights scored on your part, but Gio, but I had Taylor winning the first one slightly. I would say very competitively, and I had Amanda Serrano winning the second one, in my opinion, very convincingly, even though it was still a very competitive affair. So hopefully the right person gets their hand raised, and we don't get any more, black, you know, sore eyes, no pun intended, in these kinds of fights, because they are some of the best fights I've seen in all my life in women's boxing, Joe.
Yeah, so the first fight was in 2022. Split win for Katie Taylor. The second one was November 2024. A unanimous for Katie Taylor. And yeah, I probably agree with you. I think these fights were very, very close, very hard to score. And yeah, that last one could have gone either way. I'm still not happy with Amanda Serrano's corner. They let that wound bleed a lot. It affected her, but I still think that she should have won at least one of those, Amanda Serrano. So I think it's going to make it very difficult for us when it comes to decide, who we're going for in our predictions, because it's been two close fights already. But yeah, anything else that you want to add on Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Chris, before we move on? That fight or anything on the undercard?
Let me ask you, Gio, what were your thoughts on that fight? Are you disappointed with Chavez Jr.? Are you revoking his boxing card? What are your thoughts, Gio, on that fight?
I'm surprised they went the distance. I think you got to give these two guys credit for going all 10 rounds. They weighed in at around 200 pounds. It's not easy to go 4, 6, 8 rounds, let alone 10. So first of all, I got to commend them for that. I didn't think Chavez was going to have the stamina to do that. But they both did it, and actually Chavez Jr. ended the fight pretty strong. So I'm glad to see him back in the ring. I'm sure it's going to help his health. But I think this might be it for him, honestly. He's 39 years old. You just lost to a YouTuber. I don't know where he goes from here. But yeah, I was glad that he got one last big paycheck, and hopefully he continues on a good path, and I don't know, maybe does what his father did and just do some fights just as a farewell tour. I think that would be pretty cool. Mainly in Mexico, and then just call it a day. I think he did what he did, and I don't think he's gonna do anything really meaningful going forward. So yeah, if the checks are good, take a couple more fights, I would say.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this kind of fight, obviously, I feel like this fight alone, he's probably made more money in this fight than all his other fights combined. Um, Obviously, people dream of this kind of money in their career. They rarely ever touch it. So the fact that Chavez was able to capitalize on his name, on the Jake Paul opponent, on all of that, for one of his last fights, yeah, I feel like it's going to be kind of like the Mayweather effect, where you get your biggest purse at the end of your career. There's nothing much left. Again, a lot of money that he's taking home. I hope he uses some of that to fight those demons in the proper and healthy way. We want to see Chavez Jr. Obviously be healthy, be happy, enjoy his money. We've always said that on the podcast. We like to see these fighters not just win inside the ring, but outside the ring, and enjoy the fruits of their labor. So hopefully he gets the help. We've seen, his father's face be plastered all over memes, and it was a little bit of that come fight night. But again, hopefully Chavez Jr. walks away, gets some help, enjoys his money. Like you said, obviously a fighter that fighter you never leaves. So hopefully he still does it, in exhibitions for his own health. But once again, I agree, Joe. I think this is his last hurrah, at least in the realms of actual professional prize fighting.
Yeah, and a very smart fight for Jake Paul to take at this stage. Chavez, 39 years old, as I said, not very active in the last 5 years. This fight, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, I think it would have been different. I think Chavez showed some signs that he could still be dangerous, but I just don't think he has enough left in the tank. But going back to, I guess, the cruiserweight division, Big Bro says Zurdo better not duck Jaya Pataya, who's been calling him out. He said it needs to happen next. He's holding those belts hostage, and man, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Paul gets a chance first, man. I think that would be the smart thing for Golden Boy and Zurdo to do, honestly. I want to see the Pataya fight, though.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that happens first, and in a business decision, I see why they would do it. Jairo Patai, that guy's a real deal, Joe. We know this. And again, you don't want to hurt your stock if you're Zurdo. So if you need to get a big payday, I mean, we know which way to go for Golden Boy. But yeah, man, I agree with Big Bro. Eventually, I feel like you have to face Jai, and hey, I feel like Zurdo may come up short the way he did against people, but you're there's no shame in fighting the best. Again, I think the fight fans will respect him even in defeat.
Yeah, anything else that you want to mention on this card? Or that's that?
Well, final question, Joe. What were your thoughts on Jake Paul? What were your thoughts on his boxing ability? Were you impressed? Were you not impressed? Final thoughts.
He's definitely the GOAT YouTube boxer ever. I've never seen anyone as good as him. He's got some skill. He's got some skill. But yeah, we want to see him fight real boxers. And I think this was a good display. He's a YouTube
Yeah,
boxing GOAT.
I agree. I think he's got some really he's got some good athleticism, good little power. Nothing crazy, but does a lot of athletic things right. And again, we'll see where he takes it. Again, we started judging him in the beginning. We weren't buying into it. He slowly changed our mindset. We don't fully give him credit, but we give him some credit. We give him enough credit, I think, Joe. Yeah, man. For me, let's see what's next for Jake.
Yeah, for a non-boxer, he's very good. All right, I gotta give him props. I think he's been taking his training seriously, and it shows. It shows. Early on in his boxing career, he was out there with experienced veteran guys. Shane Mosley, if you remember, he was working with him for a bit. I'm not sure if he still is, but his sparring partners were a lot of local guys from LA, and yeah, I mean, I haven't really heard too many people talk bad about him in those circles. So I think he's taking it seriously, and yeah, he's not bad. As I said, he's the GOAT YouTube boxer for now. I don't know if anyone will ever dethrone him. Sorry, but yeah, that's that. What else? What else we got? Do we want to get into the boxing schedule, or do you have anything else?
Oh, okay. I like final question prediction. Who does he fight? Does he fight a top 25 boxer? Does he go back and fight another questionable name? What do you think he does from here, Gio?
Well, I think it depends what he wants to do. He's 28 years old. I think if he wants to stay in boxing for the long run, I think he takes another easy-ish fight. Another guy who's ranked, like you said, maybe a 25 ranked guy, 25th, 30th, 35th, maybe top 40, But I think if he decides that, hey, I don't want to continue getting hit in the head, the money's good, but I think I could do other things. And yeah, go straight to the Zurdo fight, I would say. I'm sure he'll get paid well. And like I said, if he loses, I think people would expect that. So I don't think he should feel any shame if that happens. So yeah, I just think it depends on what he wants to do. I don't think he needs boxing. So I don't know if he continues taking those easy fights.
And let me just end this, Gio, by saying, like, regardless of what you think of Jake Paul, when it's all said and done, even with all the asterisks, and there's a bunch of asterisks, Gio, he's got one of the craziest ensembles of like resumes. He's got everything from MMA legends to boxing legends. Obviously, like I said, with asterisks, but it's gonna be one of the weirdest, box rec resumes of all time.
All right, and there you have it. Hey, let's talk Deontay Wilder. He also got a victory, Chris. I don't know if you got a chance to see that, but Deontay Wilder, 44 and 4, 43 knockouts, man. Still one of the best KO ratios ever. All right. Who survived? Let me see. I want to send a shout out to the guy who survived against him. Obviously the Tyson Fury victories, the split decision draw, biggest robbery and one of the biggest robberies in history. That one. But in his W's right here, Bermain Stavern, he won by unanimous decision. This was in 2015. Man, he survived. But look, all KOs here. He KO'd Stavern eventually after that. But this time around, he was fighting Tyrell Anthony Herdon. I never heard of him. 24 and 6. He's 37 years old. 7 rounds, not too bad. I did see the stoppage. Thought the ref could have let it continue, but he had seen enough. And Wilder back on the winning column after those couple of losses. Big losses against Joseph Parker. Lost every round in that one. And then Zile Zong got KO'd in that one. Yeah, I think Wilder probably has a couple more fights in him. Hey, I even saw some Jake Paul possibilities. I don't know if that was just like a meme or if that was real, but yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too far fetched, especially what I just said, Gio. One of the craziest box rec resumes for Jake Paul. But yeah, I did see this fight in bits and pieces, Gio. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't sit through the whole thing, but I saw it in bits and pieces. And afterwards, I visited the highlights, and yeah, man, I correct me if I'm wrong. If you saw it, I did not see anything great from the Bronze Bomber. To be honest, I feel like it's just him trying to rekindle, trying to summon back uh himself in his prime, but it's just not there. Obviously, great effort by his opponent, but I mean he's levels below even this version of the Bronze Bomber. So again, obviously he did what he needed to do and get this W, and obviously it's good for his confidence. It's good for whatever's going upstairs. The Bronze Bomber, obviously, we know that he's going to try to, you know, climb the mountaintop once again. Even though we've said on this podcast, I don't think he's got it anymore at that level. But yeah, again, did what he needed to do. But I'm not impressed, Gio. I think his time at or near the top is past. Well, what are your thoughts?
Dude, just fight Andy Ruiz, man. There's a lot of older heavyweights that can still fight each other. Like, make your money, but whatever. I never really care for Deontay Wilder, but hey, he got a victory, and I think, hey, like I said, get a couple more paychecks and you're good, man. Let's go straight to the boxing schedule that's coming up. July, things are heating up. All right, you see it here. Taylor Serrano, Stevenson Cepeda, Berlanga Shiraz. And look, you can see all these fight posters here. Bam Cafu, Pacheco Macumbi on the undercard. Sayas is fighting as well. July Shields is fighting in July. So let me go ahead and give you exact dates and locations. Jack Catterall's fighting this weekend, Saturday in Manchester, England. If you guys care, that will be on the Zone. He's fighting Harlem Eubank. Joel Cordina is on that undercard. Sky Nicholson is on the undercard as well. Let's see what else we have. Obviously, July 11th, New York, Netflix. That Katie Taylor fight against Amanda Serrano. Alicia Baumgardner, shout out to her. She's fighting against Jennifer Miranda. For all of.
You're gonna say she's fine.
Yeah, that too. You know what I was trying to say.
She's fighting.
Yeah, they're fighting for all her belts. That's a pretty much all women's card, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's gonna be pretty cool, man. That's on Netflix. So if you guys have Netflix, tune in. Saturday, July 11th. Is that a Saturday or is that a Friday? Let me check that real quick.
11th
That's a
might
Friday.
be
Yeah,
pretty- Yeah, because
it's a
4th of
Friday.
July is on Friday. Yeah.
Interesting. Next day, July 12th. Also a big day, man. Good weekend of boxing. Edgar Berlanga, Hamza Shiraz. That's gonna be good. Shakur Stevenson, William Cepeda, another good one. Alberto Puello versus Suriel Matias. That's a good fight. And David Morrell is fighting Imam Khatev. That is live from Queens, New York. DAZN. What's the venue? Somebody tell us what's the venue for that one? Queens, New York. And then we got a couple more fights that day. Manny Pacquiao the next weekend. So man, hey, July's gonna be lit. We're gonna have a lot to talk about. Usyk the next weekend after that. Oh, I'm sorry, same day. Same day. That's gonna be live from London. Jesse Bam Rodriguez live from Frisco, Texas. Same day. And yeah, we can get into the rest. Zaya, Shields. We can get into those later. But man, things are gonna heat up, man. It's a hot summer right now. Heating up.
Yeah, and Gio, I'm a little surprised. Obviously, I know there's a lot of competition for 4th of July weekend, but I'm a little shocked that somebody like a Golden Boy, and I know I've asked them in the past. Man, I'm surprised they don't do a card in or before the 4th of July. Man, you could get all your American names and put all those flags out there. Obviously, I know right now it's a touchy time politically speaking, but I'm always shocked when they don't do events with American fighters like around the 4th of July. Obviously, I know there's a bunch of other sports going on, but let's keep it real, man. People will tune in for boxing any day if they put the right, the right marketing behind. But whatever, missed opportunity, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, the venue for that is the Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, New York. I never heard of it, so that should be interesting. And it's a very good card too. So yeah, I hope people show out, show up, and show out. Berlanga, who's been talking a lot, man. He's been talking a lot, but we'll see what he can do against Shiraz. We'll preview that next week. Chris, do you have anything else for us today?
No, again, pretty much, you just gotta commend Jake Paul. Whatever his team is doing, I kind of agree with Big Bro. I think there's maybe some fine print where some of these fighters, aren't allowed to throw punches until the 8th round. I don't know, Gio, but hey, again, it's going down in the box rec. It's official. It's a W. It's against a name like a Chavez Jr. Chavez Jr. goes off to the sunset with millions in his bank account, so commend him for that. But yeah, man, Jake Paul keeps it going. Like Virgil Ortiz said, the circus keeps on going. I don't know what he commends Jake Paul for keeping it going, but yeah, man, we'll see what happens next, man. But shout out to Jake Paul. Good W.
Yes, yes, and yeah, we'll pull up some polls. We'll post some polls for next week. Whether you agree that he should be ranked or not, and I'm sure we'll have other news. I'm sure he's not just gonna go away. He's got all the momentum right now, so we'll post some polls up, and then hey, we gotta get you guys' takes too on Shakur Cepeda, Berlanga Shiraz. So yeah, be on the lookout on that posts tab. We're gonna be posting all those. Look, including this. Ryan Garcia was beefing with Golden Boy. Apparently, Golden Boy posted some screenshots, and then Berlanga got in on the action. And then yeah, so man, I don't know. There's a lot of back and forth right now, Chris. I even saw some stuff that Bob Arum recently said about Devin Haney, calling him a track star, saying his fighter Norman Jr., who has impressed recently. It looks like they're gonna fight. It looks like that fight might happen. So, yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure, for the rest of the month.
Yeah, once again, guys, if you guys are catching this on replay, appreciate you guys chatting up, leaving your thoughts, your comments, and pressing that like button. Again, July, man, July is starting to look good. Again, uh, obviously the May card was the biggest chunk of the first 6 months, so looking forward to July, Gio.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, mates. We'll be back next week. We got a lot to talk about next week, man. A lot of predictions to make. So let's get ready. Let's go, mates.
Ese gallo blanco.
Shout out to Jake Paul. Peace.
Cool.
Hola amigos, soy Juan Francisco Gallo AtR. Quiero mandar un saludo para mis amigos de Contra las Cuerdas. Échenle muchas ganas, un abrazo, muchas bendiciones.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. You know what mine is? Let's box, bitches. It's almost fight night.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you for the support. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a great job. So thank you and best wishes.
Huge shout out to Against the Ropes.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you guys for the interview and hope to see you guys soon.
Against the Ropes, always doing the right thing.
Shout out to Against the Ropes, man. I appreciate you guys for having me, taking the time out y'all day.